Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So you all know that Snoop Dogg put out a controversial video for his song Lavender. And in that video, it features him shooting a character who's supposed to be Donald Trump. But when he fires the gun, a sign comes out that says bang, no bullets are coming out. And later on, Donald Trump's character is walking around just fine. But still, people are saying that this is a threat on the president's life. And, you know, that this depicted an assassination. So it's generated controversy. And in fact, one news analyst or news commentator on Fox called for Snoop to be assassinated for doing that video. So in response to this controversy involving Snoop's video, Steve Harvey weighed in. He gave his opinion about this thing. And he told Snoop and others who support Snoop that you have to respect the office of the presidency. And he also warned about how the president can retaliate. But he didn't provide any details. But some of the things that come to mind are, you know, the IRS going after somebody, investigating them for tax evasion or violating, you know, tax laws and not paying the proper amount of taxes. Also, there's the issue of government surveillance, like the FBI and other agencies can search for dirt on you to bring charges against you. So I guess those are some of the things that Steve Harvey had in mind when he was talking about how people can be retaliated against for threatening the president or, you know, doing things that offend the president. So basically, he was telling Snoop and others that they need to be careful about how they deal with the president, how they address issues and this and that. And I just want to take time to provide, you know, my response to this. You know, now that we have this buffoon in the White House, Donald Trump, people are all of a sudden saying that you need to respect the office of the presidency. You need to respect the president. But none of these people said that when Obama was in the White House. They didn't say that when they depicted Obama as a monkey and depicted the first lady as a monkey, depicted the first family as apes and monkeys. Nobody said anything about respecting the office of the presidency. Nobody said anything about respecting the office of the presidency when they demanded that Obama produce his birth certificate to prove that he's a U.S. citizen. Nobody said anything about respecting the office of the presidency then. Nobody said anything about respecting the office of the presidency when they depicted Obama as a witch doctor, when they depicted Obama as a terrorist. Nobody said anything about respecting the office of the presidency. Nobody said anything about respecting the office of the presidency when a Southern congressman called Obama a liar during the State of the Union address. And now all of a sudden that their man is in the White House, Donald Trump is in the White House, all of a sudden these people want to talk about decorum. All of a sudden people want you and me to respect the office of the presidency. And, you know, I just think that that's hypocrisy. I'm not saying that that's the case with Steve Harvey, but I'm talking about others, you know, these right-wing fanatics. In fact, the president himself, you know, Donald Trump was one of these people questioning the legitimacy of President Obama. And even today, Donald Trump disrespects the office of the presidency by accusing Obama of spying on him without offering any proof of this. Without any proof. And he hasn't retracted the statement despite the fact that the FBI said that there was no such wiretapping going on. So if you want to talk about respecting the office of the presidency, first of all, you got to get the man that's in that office right now to respect that office by conducting himself in a presidential way and by treating his predecessors with respect. And I don't think that just because somebody happens to be the president, that you have to automatically respect them. You don't have to respect them. In fact, you have a duty to call them out. You have a duty to speak against these people when they go wrong, when they do wrong by the American people. So that's what I have to say, you know, and I wouldn't say that I would be one to depict an assassination of the president. You know, I'm not necessarily saying that that's the case or that I condone that. You know, even though I support Snoop's video, I think he was making a political statement. I don't think he was threatening the life of the president. So that's the first thing, man. You know, and then the other thing that I'll say is this, you know, Steve Harvey, while he probably means well, you know, I'm not going to question his motives. He probably does mean well. He probably thinks he is actually looking out for these brothers and sisters who had controversial things to say about Donald Trump. But I think that what he represents is the scary Negro. He represents the scared Negro, the shook Negro, the broken Negro, the one who is afraid, the one who wants to, you know, just accommodate people so that he won't make people upset, so he won't ruffle feathers, so he can continue to make money. He's one of those type of Negroes, a scary Negro. I mean, he reminds me of that character from the original Roots, Fiddler, you know, who basically was trying to teach Kunta Kinte how to be a good slave, how to get used to and adjusted to being a slave. That's what this guy, Steve Harvey, reminds me of. Just give me a second. I'm going to let this ambulance pass by. Yeah, but that's what he reminds me of, man. A scared Negro. A broken Negro. I mean, later for that, man. We need people who have courage. We need people who have heart. You know, and I'm not encouraging people to violate the law or to necessarily speak out in the way that Snoop Dogg did, but we cannot afford to be afraid, because fear is a prison, man. Fear is the opposite of freedom. When you are free, you aren't confined. And I think that this brother, Steve Harvey, you know, while he probably means well, you know, I just think that what he's doing is trying to tame these brothers, trying to make them conditioned to be weak just like he is. And I just think that that's wrong, man. I think that it's wrong. And I just think that he is not a good representative for what a real black man should be. A real black man should have courage. He shouldn't be punkified, scared, shook because of the president. And I mean, you all know that this guy, Steve Harvey, met with Donald Trump a couple of months ago or a month ago or so. And, you know, I just think that all around, the brother reflects weakness. And I hope that brothers and sisters don't become shook. You know, I hope that these entertainers continue to use their voice to speak out on issues that matter. Because nobody cared. Nobody was there to warn Snoop about his messages when he was directing his negativity towards black people. Where was Steve Harvey to warn Snoop about encouraging violence? And that's another thing that I want to talk about real quick. Another thing that he mentioned on the radio was this. He said that, I gotta check the time. He said this. He said that you gotta be worried about how other people may react to the art that you present. Like, some people may actually go out there and be inspired by Snoop's video and actually try to kill the president. And he said you have to be worried about those kinds of people. And I get what he's saying about that, but I'll say this. I mean, did you express that same kind of concern, as another YouTuber pointed out, the brother LA? I mean, did you express that same kind of concern when Snoop was talking about killing people, when Snoop was glorifying the gang life? Did you express that kind of concern about the youth being inspired to engage in violence after listening to Snoop Dogg's music? Did you express that concern? Did you express that same kind of concern when T.I. was singing about the trap life? You know what I'm saying? Singing about selling drugs and killing people. Did you express that same kind of concern about what people would do after listening to his music? Of course not. You were silent. But when it comes to power and influence, when it comes to a president of the United States, all of a sudden you got so much to say. So much to say so that you can make these brothers good slaves.